What's up? Nice to meet you,
Nice to meet you,
TJ.
man. Nice to meet you.
So
Thank
you're
you for
gonna tell
having me.
us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah. So it's a cool elevator pitch for me.
Let's hear it. 30 seconds. 30
30 seconds.
seconds.
Yeah. So my name is TJ.
Okay.
I love making music, and I started my own music duo. It was about 2019 when I first started making music. Right around now, we have two songs. One of them's well over a million. The other one's creeping up on a million.
Okay.
Peaked at like 36,000 monthly listeners. So I've been doing music for a while, and once I got to school, I fell in love with the entrepreneurial space. Got briefly introduced to venture capital with a summer internship. Basically, there just learned a lot about how the entrepreneurial space works, how companies get funding, a little bit on how to evaluate companies and things of that nature. And from there, I just realized that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, or to at least start my own company, and to later go into venture capital. But following my time at my VC internship, I had worked with a creator economy startup, and essentially what we were doing there is just providing deal flow for influencers, um, facilitating like different brand deals, sound activations, and things of that nature, and just servicing influencers, as well as different brands, record labels, and marketing agencies. So from there, I believe I worked there for about like a year and a half. I learned a lot about what it takes to be a founder, what it looks like to actually be at a company that is pretty much ran like boots on the ground. So I got a lot of information there on how I maybe want to start my own company one day and what it really takes to do that. Didn't really feel the need to start my own company right away. So after my time at the creator economy startup, just formerly known as Happy Studios, they went through a couple of rebrands, and I do believe they recently got acquired this past summer, something like that. But yeah, following that, I really was interested in tech because this was more of like my past experience was very much in the agency industry where it was not really like technically capable or not a lot of tech that was being implemented. A lot of things that I was doing was more on the business development side, strategy side, helping scale, acquire new clients, and things like that. So I really wanted to sort of verse my skills and talents. So that led me into working with really cool companies like Mellow Music, which is a sort of like an underground community for artists to share their music. And then it's essentially the place where underground artists like blow up. And then, yeah, following that, I had worked with Nitrility, and I'm still currently working with Nitrility. Definitely could talk about that down the line. But yeah, worked with Nitrility, learned a lot there about what it looks like to be a company seeking VC funding and receiving VC funding. So it was really, really interesting time there. And very recently, I started my own venture called Lunar Media, which is essentially a tech-enabled creator economy management agency that works to empower Asian creatives as well as to optimize the creator economy.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I guess like start at the very beginning of the journey, right?
Yeah.
When did music start for you? Like, how did Soulfly come about, and how'd you meet the other part of the duo? How did that all come about?
Great question. I love answering this because it just brings me back to such a funny time. But I always loved music. My dad was in a rock band when he was in his college, mid-20s kind of thing. Always had instruments around the house. My mom always wanted me to play instruments and to sing and things like that. So I kind of just always around it. And I guess what really ignited my passion for wanting to be an artist, this might sound funny, but I really like the Never Say Never like movie that Justin Bieber did. It was super cool seeing some like kid my own like similar to my age just go through the ranks of stardom like super quick. So that's when I was like, wow, I want to be an artist. But that was like what, middle school, late elementary school when that movie came out. No real action there other than my mom throwing me into a children's choir, which actually helped out a lot down the line. I was in band as well. So again, just very music centric. Then it came to early high school, like freshman, sophomore year. I think this was a time where like Rice Gum was really making a sort of like come up. And seeing like another Asian, which at the time was like super rare to see an Asian person really dominating in that sort of like content creation, YouTube, internet space, other than like Ryan Higa. It was super new. So I was like, wow, this guy's him. Like, for a lack of a better word, like this guy is him. Super cool. And because of him is when I like I was like, you know what? Like, if he can do it, like, it's not that his quality's that great. Like, you can see a studio, just like a mic in his bed, like mattress on the ground. So I was like, I could do this. And I had a friend who at the time was on my basketball team, and we were basically just like, dude, let's just like become producers. So we dabbled a little bit in FL. There's like a free trial online that you can use, and it basically is the exact same thing as the fully paid version, except you can't like save in progress files. But yeah, long story short, I tried to produce, I couldn't, mainly because I didn't really have the patience for it. I didn't really want to learn like the whole new like language of the dawn, things like that. And my other friend did sort of stick it out, and he made me a bunch of beats. That's when I really started getting into it. I remember fake teasing a song that I didn't even have. Like to this day, I can't tell you why I did that. I was just like, this random date, I'm dropping a song, and there was like zero song ever. Like I wasn't even like in the process of writing it either. So, so then it comes to that day. I think it was like 1/1/19, like January 1st, like
Yeah.
2019. I was like, it was like December 31st. I was like, oh shoot, like people are actually like texting me to drop a song. So I was like, oh man, what am I gonna do? So the next day, everyone's texting me like, dude, where's your song, man? Like you said, it's gonna be the next big thing, blah blah blah. And I was like, so I posted another thing like, oh, the song's getting delayed. Like, give me a week. And I was like, the label didn't clear it. I just lied or something like
Yeah.
that. It was so funny. It was actually really dumb at the time. But yeah, so then it was like January 2nd. I have like, I'm on the clock, man, like 6 days left to fully finish a song and drop it. And then yeah, my producer, I went to his crib. We actually just made a random song. I'm not gonna say it because I don't want you guys looking it up. It's horrible. It's a trash song.
Tell me after.
I'll tell you after. I'll tell you after. But yeah, long story short, I made my first like joke rap song. Shout out to Rice Gum, I guess. And from there, it did like 1,000 streams in like a month, which at the time I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like I might just have to drop out. But then everyone started considering me like the music guy. I was like really like the idea of like, oh, okay, like I created something and now I'm getting like notoriety for it. And then from there, yeah, I was just making like these pretty trash songs. I wasn't even really even releasing it. It was like maybe one or two on SoundCloud. And then I went to like this like church retreat. And at my church retreat, it's like me and a couple of my buddies, and then they have this like my pastor brings out this dude. He's like, "Yo, guys, this is like the son of like a friendly pastor or something like that. Like, make sure he's like feels well adjusted and things like that." Long story short, that is my now current like best friend and music partner, Jonathan Lee. And yeah, we kind of just got tight over that church retreat. Not even like we were separated because we were in different grades. He's a year older than me. So don't really know how we got tight. But we got tight, I think, because we bonded over like a Bape shirt. I don't know. I was really into Bape at the time. He was too. So we stayed in contact and things like that. I went to church every so often together. And then one day, over the summer, he was at like some Duke like summer camp or something like that. And he was big on battle rap. So he was just like rap battling kids at the lunch table and things like that. And then he dropped like a song where it was like more of like a slam poetry like style of song. Dropped that on SoundCloud. And then a lot of kids at my church were like, yo, TJ and Jolie, like you guys should like do something. You guys are like the two rap guys. Fast forward again, this is a very overdrawn story, but fast forward again to a different time where we actually did like, we are just like, okay, like why not make a song? We had no idea what to make a song about. We're just like been overusing like rap lines from the Migos in our current songs. So we're like, okay, how can we showcase some real artistry? So we decided to make a rap song about my friend who got kicked out of a basketball game, pretending like he went to jail. Because at the time, I don't know, it was like Free Kodak was a huge thing. So we're like, hey man, shout out to my boy, Free AP, man. That's my friend, Andrew Park, AP. So we dropped that song, and weirdly, it did like 7,000 streams in like a month. And again, at the time, like going from like 0 streams to then 1,000 to now 7,000, we're like, wow, this is like so sick. Like people like are coming up to us as if we're like real artists now. This is super, super cool. Long story short, ever since then, Jonathan and I, we decided to be a duo, made a couple of songs. Our first song under our duo name, Soulfly, actually did 100,000, or it was like 70,000 streams within the first 3 months. And then later, I think it's right now sitting around like 150,000. So going from the 0 to 1,000 to 7,000 to now like, what, 100,000 streams. we're like, wow, we should take this seriously. So ever since then, we've been making songs, we've been partnering with really cool people to make music together. Yeah, now we're sitting at around 2 songs with 2 million, 1 million streams each, a couple of 100K streamers down the line. It's been really, really fun. It's been really, really fun to build music together.
Nice, nice. So backtracking a little bit, when you said your childhood, like how your parents raised you, like the fact that you had a lot of instruments around the house really shaped you as an artist, or is it like, so basically, is it like a nature thing, or is it like a nurture? Like, I just happened to be around a lot of instruments.
Yeah.
And my parents, like, without your parents, would you say your journey would be any different, or how do you think your parents really shaped your journey as creative?
That's a great question. I think my parents have just shaped me to be like the exact person I am today. I'm outside the creative industry, outside of anything academic or career related. Like they basically shaped who I am today, and I cannot be more than grateful. But more specifically on like the music side, 100%. I think without that, I would just not have the confidence to think that that's like a cool thing. Especially a lot of like, I guess the Asian stigma is, praise team, things like that, but no one really goes into like rap. No one really goes into like even pop music to say. But my parents, they were very, very supportive in sort of like me exploring different things. Like even just taking me to go see the Never Say Never Justin Bieber movie was not something that a lot of like similar parents or friends of my parents were doing for their like sons and daughters and things like that. But yeah, definitely attribute a lot of sort of like my confidence in my creative endeavors and just my confidence in general to a lot of different things that I try to my parents.
Nice, nice. I feel like there's a lot of people today who are like, they like. I remember seeing this one like TikTok video from like this super famous guy. Maybe it was like the Bradley Martin, like the big
Bradley,
Bradley
yeah.
Martin. Yeah, he's like the only people who are successful are people who have really bad childhoods and like that drives them to success. Would you say that's true, or is it like both sides, like either having a really good parent or really bad parents? Like, how do you say?
Yeah, that's a
your opinion
good
is on that?
question. Again, I don't know if I can speak that much on the like bad parenting side. Shout out to my parents; they're more than amazing. Love them both, as well as all my other family members. My aunt, my grandma, more than supportive. But I don't know. I really do feel like it's because obviously your parents' kids support you to an extent, right? They can get you to the best school possible, at least like in terms of like on non-college schooling. They can put you in the best like neighborhood possible and things like that. But in terms of like utilizing what they've like gifted you, I think that very much comes down to the person. It's definitely will probably be like a point of topic down the line of like how you grow your network and things. But without my parents instilling like like nurturing me and being like very, very nice to me, like raising me in a very like effective way, I would not be confident in networking with other people, which again, we'll probably talk about this later down the line, but definitely attributed a lot to like my current successes and things like that.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So let's fast forward a little bit, right? So now you have Soulfly. You released 2 songs. How does this kind of transition into your creative agencies and like kind of like being a manager for other creators and everything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. This one again is like, I guess if there's one thing about my life, it's like it was never like linear. There was no like pathway that made sense. It just makes sense now because it happened. But yeah, so I made music. Was always really, really interested in being an entrepreneur. As well as like marketing. I really felt like drawn to that, being able to send messages to a mass amount of people was something that I really felt was like super, super cool. And again, that's why I was pursuing music. If I go through a heartbreak, I can let everybody in the world know about it potentially. So that's what really drew me to music. But music definitely shaped my career, my academic and career journey a lot. One thing, for example, like my music partner Jonathan, super, super smart kid, one of the smartest people I know. He is an undergrad at Stanford studying computer science. Super, super bright kid. Just in having the confidence to do music and then doing it with one of my best friends. Well, we share so many insights with each other. I learn a lot from him. He learns a lot from me. And it's just like a really, really great relationship that we have. So very, very upfront. Like, yeah, I've learned a lot from Jonathan, and that has shaped my professional career a lot. Following that, music definitely helped with the creator, working in that creator economy startup to begin with, mainly because it was really, really funny because at the time, Jonathan he was a freshman, maybe freshman or sophomore at Stanford, and he was working with like a college essay editing like service. I can't exactly remember the name of the company, but it was like really, really big at the time. Like a lot of high schoolers were watching. It was like a YouTuber that had like a essay editing service. I can't exactly remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was working as like an essay editor or something like that. And long story short, he got an essay across his table talking about this kid who like, oh, I blew up like Don Toliver's song. Long story short, he got an essay that said some really cool stuff about the music age, like music industry and things like that. So then Jonathan texted me, he's like, yo, like, this is a really cool essay, something like that. And basically he was just like, dude, I'm gonna reach out to him, see if he could like help us with our music. Long story short, they ended up working together at this creator economy startup, and then I joined and helped them as well. Learned a lot about this and things like that. And then because of that initial experience there, the network that I grew there, again with my music, also like somewhat seeing an increase in viewership as well. Not only were my artist connections growing by the minute, but so were my like professional connections. A lot of people started telling me like, "Hey, like we want to like an influencer management campaign. Do you know anybody?" Of course I do. I work at this company. Here you go. So from there, I really started to foster a lot of different relationships, all stemming from just two little Asian guys wanting to push their music a little bit further. And then, yeah, obviously me being an artist as well as having entrepreneurial experience that sort of allowed me to work at Noah Music, helping out Brazil, which is another extremely talented founder, super, super cool guy. But yeah, it was an artist. It was a platform for artists. So obviously, because I had the background, I was able to help out there. And then Nitrility is another interesting story. We could say that for a little bit.
Say that for later. Yeah. So before we jump into Nitrility, you mentioned that your life isn't linear, right? You
Yeah.
do one thing and then somehow magically ends up doing another thing. So I feel like a lot of people are in opportunities or like situations where they can either stay where they're at or make like a huge step into like the next maybe stage of the journey. Like maybe it's like, for example, I'm at school, right? Like I can meet you and then we can start a company together and be
Yeah.
the next $1 company. So do you have any advice for people who are in these situations with like a lot of opportunities, a lot of potential, how to like maximize the amount of, I guess, like success or like opportunities or connections you can make out of that one like stage or like one maybe club, company, whatever that you're at right now?
Yeah. I think this just goes into no matter what stage you're at, if you're, quote unquote successful, or you find yourself to be successful and whatnot, or if you're struggling, or maybe you're just young and really want to expand out. I give this piece of advice to literally anybody, and I don't just say that because it's like, it's like a one size fits all. Like I truly do believe that if everybody that hears this listens to it and actually like applies it to their life, it'll be more than transformational. But essentially what I tell everybody is be interested in what you're interested in. It sounds a little bit dumb, right? Be interested in what you're interested in and be interested in people. If you're interested in like what you like, what you truly do like, you won't have to worry about, oh, what club or what company or what internship is going to maximize my opportunity. Because the biggest opportunity is for you to do something that you truly enjoy. And I feel like that's like the same case for everybody. If you do something that you really, really enjoy and you become very, very good at it, you don't have to worry about anything financially related because you're probably taking good care of yourself. You won't have to worry about, oh, am I doing the right thing? Because you chose to do this yourself. This is something that you're very, very passionate in. So you don't have to worry about that. And then, yeah, once you really just hone in on what you love, what you want to do, what you're good at, and sort of mixing them all together, there won't be an issue of, oh, should I do this or should I just like take this away and things like that. It'll all sort of fall into place itself. And being interested in people is huge. I feel like there's a lot, especially in young people, a lot of people are caught up in like, oh, what's their title? Oh, like what school do you go to? Oh, like, a lot of like the superficial things. But for me, I think that's all like, for lack of better words, it's bullshit. If you're interested in people, you're constantly wanting to like make new friends, meet new people, say hi, learn new things. You'll do exactly that. You'll make new friends. You'll learn new things and you'll just be a lot more like well versed. And again, having a large network and a quality network has been transformational for everything I've been doing, whether it's creative, academic, or career related.
Nice, nice. I feel like that's really good advice. Like I feel like a lot of young people, especially like, for example, like I'm a freshman right now at the school, and like you get kind of caught up in this whole world of like trying to meet as many people as possible for the sake
Yeah.
of networking, like trying
Exactly.
to join as many clubs as possible for the sake of like having that title. But
Yeah.
I feel like it's really important. Like I've been trying to do that as much as possible. Just like really just doing things that like I'm super passionate about, like not spending my time on other things and like really just like meeting people for meeting people. Because
Yeah.
it's kind of hard. Like when you're in such like a big university and like you kind of get caught up in this whole world of like networking and like these like prestigious clubs and everything. So it's really important to do that.
Like a good metaphor that I like to use is, I'm sure everybody watching as well uses LinkedIn, but would you rather have like the 500 plus connection on LinkedIn, thousand plus connections, and you can maybe reach out to 20 of them for something? Or would you rather have like 300, 200 to 300 connections on LinkedIn, but if you need anything, you could ask every single person and they respond? Personally, although if you check my LinkedIn, I do have 500 plus connections.
Subtle flex, subtle flex.
Yeah, subtle flex.
Subtle flex, it's whatever, yeah.
But I would much rather have the quality smaller but quality connection list where if I need something, whether it's marketing, maybe I need some like graphics or something like that, I can reach out to them and they will have my back because they know I have theirs. I find that to be way more valuable than, like vanity metrics and things like that.
Yeah, sounds good. So now let's move on to the next step. So you have your creator economy, like startup, whatever the agency, you have SoFi. How do you get into Neutrality? Did you meet Avi when he was a freshman? How did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so first I want to say Avi is like a super great guy. He's super funny, unfiltered, just says what he says what he says and he means what he says. It's something I respect a lot about him. But how I met Avi was, it's not like a glamorous story at all, to be honest. It'll probably be the most boring tidbit of how this whole podcast. But long story short, yeah, making music. I'm really interested in how can we take our music to the next level. In my head, I'm thinking like growth hacking, right? How could we like hedge our way into this? How could we utilize our current networks to like increase our streams and whatnot? And then I can't exactly remember how it happened. Either I had seen something on LinkedIn. Actually, that's what it was. Avi recently posted at the time like something along the lines of, we just raised X amount of money at a $5 million it was like valuation or something like that. And then I don't know, I saw a lot of people liking it. So obviously, the LinkedIn algorithm is like pretty broken in a sense. If one of your friends likes something, you're definitely gonna see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I saw this and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. He's U of I, and I'm also again very interested in like venture capital, seeing like new startups grow and things like that. So I was like, okay, I'll check it out. Then I saw it was like unshackling creativity, the really like mysterious branding. I'm like, this is cool. I like what it looks like. And then I looked into it a little bit more and I saw that it services artists. I'm like, oh, who's this artist? I actually listen to this artist. That's really, really cool. Long story short, I reached out to Avi, I believe it was on LinkedIn, and I was like, hey man, like I'd love to hear about this. I'm an artist at U of I. And we get into a call with him, myself and Jonathan. And basically the call was for him to onboard us as artists on Neutrality. Heard the pitch, basically gave us a rundown on the whole company. I'm like, wow, this is super sick. Like, it would be a no-brainer to not sign on as an artist, which, by the way, it still is a no-brainer. If you're an artist watching, it's a no-brainer.
Check him out.
It's a no-brainer to sign a Neutrality. But yeah, it was super, super cool. So one, I loved it as an artist, and the whole time I'm thinking like, oh, this is really sick. I'd love to work with this guy. But really didn't think about it after. Like, this is my first interaction with Avi, so I was just like, oh, he's cool. I like the idea. That's sick. Really just left my mind. And then Avi posted again. It was like sometime before the summer. Like, I'm looking for like interns, like people to work with on Neutrality. So I reached out to him like, hey man, like I'd love to do this. He was like, you got it, 100%. Let's do this. Worked with him throughout the summer. Learned a lot from the kid. He's definitely someone. If you ever have a chance to, just sit him down for coffee. The guy, you'll learn so much in 5 minutes with him. Like, love that guy. Super, super interesting kid. Love every chat that I have with him. But yeah, worked with him over the summer. Learned a lot about him. Learned a lot about Neutrality, just more about the space in general. I wouldn't say Neutrality is like a music company. It really just is an intellectual property marketplace. So again, this is definitely different from like my creator economy experience. Or my creator agency experience is definitely different from my artist experience or mellow music artist experience. So it's really, really interesting to learn about and to be a part of. And then it also helped me segue a lot into current venture, Lunar Media.
Okay, yeah. So I guess talking a little bit more about Avi, like I had the opportunity to talk. Like I was at his Fireside Chat earlier, and at the Founders Hangout afterwards, I also got to listen to him speak for a little bit. So do you agree with a lot of his stuff? Like, I remember the one distinct thing I remember about him is like he hired people based on their ego, not like ego as how we traditionally define it.
Yeah.
But do you think he hired me for the same reason? Like, he had a high ego among the other participants. And what do you think about like his maybe like his work ethic, his philosophy, and like his kind of idea of like maximizing problems in his life?
Yeah, so the maximizing problem, it's weird. It's weird because I love Avi, but there's sometimes he frames things in a really funny or almost like polarizing way.
Yeah.
So it's weird. Sometimes it's like it's hard for me to agree with him, but like I do in some cases. For example, we could tackle the ego thing. I wasn't really aware that that's how we hired people, but it does make sense after hearing that. Not to say that I'm like an egotistical person at all. I just think maybe Avi chose the word ego a little bit hastily, but I do understand what he means. He loves working with people who like know what they want to do. He loves working with people who don't second guess their decisions. Who are just very confident, like, hey, I could do this and I'm going to do this. And if I can't do this, I'm going to learn how to do it and then I'm going to do it. He just loves working with people who are like creative themselves, builders. He loves like entrepreneurial minded people. So I definitely agree with him on that. I love working with like similarly like, creative people and things. As well as people who are confident. But I also just really like working with people who are passionate. I think that's one of like my favorite things is if someone's passionate, I don't care what school you went to, I don't care what your GPA is, I don't care how much money you have in the bank. Like I will work with you if you truly are passionate about something that aligns with what I'm like passionate about. We can build something together. That's something I very much agree with. The second thing was what was it? Stacking problems. Weirdly enough, that's like I do agree with stacking problems, but maybe not in the way that that phrase comes off as. Instead of like, like, oh, I'm just gonna do all these things because it's problematic, or I don't understand the exact wording of stacking problems, but I do get the sentiment of it, right? Because like, at least for me, in my version of stacking problems is always keeping myself busy, because if I'm busy. And this isn't just for the sake of being busy, right? Don't fill your time with like stuff for the sake of being busy. Again, this goes back to a similar principle as like be interested in people because you're interested in people, not because you want something out of it. So don't be busy just to be busy, just because then you could say that you're stacking your problems. Really fill your time with things that you want to work on, things that you want to like build from the ground up, right? I think stacking a problem is like going to the gym is considered a problem that you could stack on, right? You're really taking an already busy day that you may have with classes and extracurriculars and whatnot, and stacking another problem by putting in that workout session to really maximize your time a little bit. For me, I'm more about analyzing your plate, putting as much as you can on here, but not to the point where it's like detrimental to everything that's currently on your plate. So get that extra piece of chicken on your plate if you want, but if it makes all the peas fall off, it's not really worth it. So I guess I agree to that to an extent. I was a super smart guy. If you really look into what he's saying, the guy's like he's a genius. He's a genius.
Extra protein, extra protein.
Extra protein.
I know.
That would be the new thing, I guess. Extra protein.
So one thing you mentioned during that is like your philosophy of like doing what you really want to do, right? So for someone who doesn't exactly know what they want to do, but maybe they have some interests, but they're not exactly certain like what to do. Like, how do you recommend finding those passions, those interests?
Perfect. That's a great question. I get that a lot as well. People see like the music, people see like the entrepreneurial ventures. They're like, wow, this guy has it all figured out. But to be completely blunt, I also don't know exactly what I want to do. But every day that I'm working towards whatever it is I'm working on, whether it's Soulfly, whether it's Lunar, whether it's assisting Avi with Nitrility, I get a better sense of what I might want to do later on. So for those people who are really struggling with figuring out what's their calling, what do you really want to do, what interests you, I think it's a matter of trying everything and then from there sort of like picking it down, right? And there's like ways that you could do this and be like, optimize your time and whatnot. If you already know yourself, let's say you're a technical person. Obviously, if you know that you're really good at something, really good at being technical, there you go. You can just sort of like block off your interest into this first. And then within that, maybe you're like, oh, I like being technical, but I don't like the grunt work of like maybe just like being a pure software engineer. So then maybe you've cut that out, but now you have, oh, maybe I want to like develop products, like be a technical product manager. There's something, you try that. You like it, you don't, you figure it out from there. But a lot of it is just like really getting your hands wet. And I know it's hard to say that without sounding like every other person ever, but you really do have to try everything before you could figure out what you like. And by trying, I don't mean you have to work as X, X, and X to figure out what you want to do. I think even reading books on certain like industries, on certain jobs, counts as like, you know, getting your hands wet with something. The more you learn about different things, the more you'll figure out what is for you and what isn't for you.
What's something you tried and you absolutely hated it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was coding. It was coding for sure. That's pretty funny. Shout out to, you know, Build Illinois. I know it's a very technically based club, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of coding. I definitely respect people who can do it at a very high level. It's something I'm still trying to get better at every single day. But at least for me, you won't see me applying to any software engineering jobs in the near future at all. But that's definitely something that I'm really trying. I guess also, you know, a little bit more of a fun answer, production as well. I started it. It's not that, I guess it's not that I hate it. I don't get it yet because it's just way different from being like just a vocal artist. So yeah, it's something I'm trying to work on. But just because you hate something doesn't mean you can't love it. That's something I also want to put out there.
Yeah, sounds good. I feel like I'm kind of in this scenario. Yeah, I'm a CS major, but at the same time, I know nothing about code. So I'm trying to like get my best at it at the same time. But I don't know if that's what I really like yet, because I definitely prefer more just like creating ideas, like working on them instead of doing all the coding work. But now let's transition more into my trilogy. So, what would you say is like the I know you guys like travel a lot, signed a lot of different artists. Like, what was the coolest experience you had with Night Trilogy?
Yeah, so actually, my experience was fully remote with Night Trilogy.
Okay.
As of right now, we don't have like an office space.
Yeah.
But being on calls with some really, really interesting artists was definitely like my highlight. I'm not exactly sure if I'm allowed to discuss some of these because I believe they're pending signing. But I love music, obviously. I listen to music literally every day. I was walking in here listening to music and whatnot. But yeah, some of these artists that I've been like a fan of for years and years and years, and seeing them on a Zoom call, you know, pitching them that trilogy, it's just been surreal. And obviously a really, really great guy, super, super fun. I guess another experience was even just doing the Fireside Chat. That's when I first met Avi in person, and I was like, wow.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it was the first time I met him in person, but it was so weird because I felt like I've known him for like years at that point. So it was really weird to think like, wow, I'm actually meeting Avi in person for the first time. But it also just doesn't feel like that at all. But yeah, you know, working alongside Avi, learning a lot of the stuff that he did to bring Avi from the ground up has definitely been some highlights there. And again, being in Zoom call with some of my favorite artists has been really, really cool as well.
You get a lot of pressure. Like, we were super nervous during these Zoom calls. Like, how is it like meeting your heroes, as some people would say? Like, there's a quote around like.
Luckily, I haven't been on a call with any of my like, you know, like all-time heroes. Like no Bieber calls yet.
Okay,
But,
not yet.
not yet, but yeah, I mean, even like the first call ever that I did was to like one of my friends who's like a music manager. That was still nerve-wracking as well. I don't think there's anybody that really has it together. I think a lot of it is just like, again, a lot of confidence you just have to like just bring out inside of you. But yeah, even like the first call with like somebody that I've known for so long, I've talked to about like things of this nature, you know, business and music and things like that. It was still super, super nerve wracking. And then even more once I found found myself in a call with somebody that I actually knew, I was like, oh shoot, this is crazy. I had to go camera off for a second, get myself together, turn it back on, and then we're firing away. But yeah, it's been a ride for sure. It's been a ride.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I remember at our like founders hangout that I went to.
Yeah.
I was just like in the side listening, but you talked a lot about being like a people person, like really good at like networking with other people. So I guess to kind of frame the question a little bit, like how would you say you became that person, and like why should people be that type of person? Like what benefits has that brought to you?
Yeah. So I guess we can start with how I became like a people person. That's a great question because I wouldn't be able to say that I know like, oh, this exact thing got me to do this. But again, I guess I wouldn't say this is a cop-out answer, but shout out to my parents. My mother, she always had me on a stage. She always wanted me to talk to people. A little known fact is I used to be in like ballet when I was a kindergarten.
Wow.
Yeah, I was so you can probably imagine, you know, a small little Asian kid in like kindergarten, first grade being in ballet. That type of response you would get from like a suburban high school in Chicago. So after that experience, there was really nothing else that could like bother me, right? Everyone's calling me the tutu kid and whatnot.
Yeah.
So just like different experiences like that, like getting put on a stage from an early age. My mom always wanted me to be really, really good at public speaking, so I was in. There was like a club called like Battle of the Books. I don't know if you're from California, correct?
Yeah.
I don't know if they had that
I
over
don't
there.
think so. No, never heard
So
of it.
long story short, what it is like a summer reading club that like is run through your elementary school. You would have a list of books that you would like supposed to read, and then throughout the school year, you would go to these like district competitions, and it's basically just like a comprehension competition. It's just like, oh, like what's the author? You like raise your hand. It's like a competitive type of thing.
Yeah.
So being put into things like that, even though I did not want to do it, I think definitely shaped at least my confidence to be able to like speak to people. Now, in terms of like creating like relationships and things like that, I've always just been someone that likes to talk to people for people. Like again, I think a lot of people get caught up in like, oh, like what does he drive? What does he wear? What school does he go to? Where's he gonna work? Did he get a return offer? Things like that. A lot of like the materialistic things. And don't get me wrong, I very much had a phase where I was like that in high school. But I think without that phase, it wouldn't have transitioned me into being someone that is more down to earth with people and wanting to create like more meaningful connections. In high school, I would not say I would say I was a people person, but I didn't care too much about the relationship that I was building. It was purely for the sake of, oh, I know all of these people. I'm cool now. And then it was sort of when COVID hit, it really, really was awakening for me. I was like, wow, all the people that I quote unquote were friends with, where are they now? They're not responding to me on my text. They're not giving me a call to check in on me. So I think because of COVID and just like my upbringing of like being around people all the time, and then the realization during COVID made me sort of value connecting with people on a deeper level a lot. Um, and there's definitely a lot of benefits to that, right? Not that the takeaway should be a people person for benefits, but at least for me, again, the biggest benefit is just having a vast network where you can reach out to anybody if you ever need anything, right? The biggest thing for me is like if I need somebody to shoot me some videos, I know a guy. He's one of my best friends. If I need someone to design me graphics, like I got a guy. That's like a good friend of mine. If I need someone to consult on like business strategy, I got a guy. So those are the type of benefits that at least I have seen from this. If you're more of that like surface level relationship kind of person, yeah, you might have a guy, but that guy is probably also guys to multiple other people. They won't really put you first because they don't know if you have their back. But if you do have like that meaningful relationship with somebody, they know you have your back. I have their back, and it's always just like it just feels better to me that way where I could be like, hey, like I want to do something, I want to do this, and they're like they know me because we've established that deep connection, and they're able to understand me better, and if any at the very least the work that they're able to produce for me is better because they know me. But yeah, that's just a couple of the benefits. Other than more like professional, I guess I don't know if I'd say I'm happier, but I do have more meaningful conversations now with people, and that definitely has sort of like translated into my health. I'm more aware that there are people behind me, even just outside of business, outside of the creative endeavors that I have. Like they're just there to talk to me because again, we have that relationship, and it's more than just I bring them deal flow or something like that. They bring me like graphics.
Yeah, yeah. So last week we had a chat with Landon from Brad Capital.
I love that. Yeah.
And we talked a lot about this idea of like doing work for people and like just like giving a lot of value to people with nothing in return. So like I guess on that note, like how'd you build these relationships that are like so close to the point where you can ask for anything, like you get for anything, and you just have some really close friends.
Yeah. So I think Landon also spoke at like a different event, like very
Yeah, right before
that.
yeah,
I was at
it's really
that
one,
one.
yeah.
First off, he's an extremely smart guy. It was so surreal just listening to him because a lot of the things that he says just aligns exactly with what I believe and like what I've done. Super, super intuitive guy. I love what he's doing at Drive. Insane. Love to connect with him again in the future. But yeah, on that note of like doing things for people without expecting something in return, 100% I align with that completely. In a lot of cases, like I guess we could start with the music front. If I have a relationship with somebody, or even if I just like what they're doing, if they ask me for like a feature or something like that, and I actually like want to be a part of it, I never would take a revenue split. I'd never take like an upfront fee. If I love what they're doing, I'll do it because at the end of the day, like even if I took a 20% like split of like people who are on a similar size of us, that's like it's very minimal. Like it's very minimal. It's not going to change my life. I'm not going to become like Elon Musk or Bezos because I have that 20%. So for me, it's really just pushing forward projects that I personally like. It doesn't have to be my own project at all. On the more academic front, right? A lot of people come to me. A lot of music products or like software people come to me and they're like, "Hey, like, what does this look like?" I'm always down for a chat, giving my advice when I can, and I don't really need anything in return because again, I do a lot of things that I do because of passion and because I enjoy the industry, I enjoy the space, or I just like the person. And again, I think the biggest takeaway from this is to not to give people stuff without expecting in return as like a tactic to get things in return, but like truly find it in your heart to like be invested in certain projects and then from there if it's in you to service them for free and somehow then you could go ahead and do that. But yeah, I feel like it's weird that a lot of people hear that they're like, oh, like do something for somebody without expecting something in return, but then they'll do that, frame it like that, but then expect something in
I
return.
know,
So
yeah.
it's like it's a really, really fine line. And just to be blunt, like people know if you like want something in return. Like it's not isn't even if you think you're the best at covering it up, you're probably not. And that's why I feel personally like if I'm gonna do something without expecting anything in return, like I'm going to do that without expecting anything in return. Because at the end of the day, people aren't stupid. People are not stupid. You're also like not as smart as you think you are. So it's always just to keep, I like to just keep everything, all cards on the table. Like they know me, I know them. And again, that's also what really helps build these relationships. Is like you don't have to worry about any of these like moving parts that might hit you here and there.
Sounds good. Yeah. So let's say fast forward 5, maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
Let's say everything went in your favor. Where do you see yourself going in 5 or 10 years? Like, what are the next steps of this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So everything aligned perfectly. I would just be the next, I don't know, Justin Bieber industry plant, something like that. Not that I'm out here saying Justin Bieber's an
Next
industry
Tizo
plant.
touchdown.
Maybe. I don't know. That'd be super sick. But yeah, if you ask me like what's like the one thing you want to go like perfectly in your life right now, like my dream is to be an artist. I would love to be like a full-time touring artist, um, selling out shows for fans, making music with really, really cool artists. That would be like the absolute dream lifestyle. Um, I guess even without that, my dream lifestyle, even like academically or career wise, is to create something either in the creator economy or just general entertainment technology space and innovate there, be a founder, hopefully, successful, whatnot. And I get all caught up in like the exits, the IPOs and whatnot. But that would be obviously best case scenario there. But it's really funny because I tell my friends like if everything went well, either on the music or just on like all of my like career academic side, I would still just want to that industry plant myself into being an artist. Like they're all like, so what's the end goal? I was like, oh, I want to be like a touring artist. I'm like, okay, what if the music doesn't work out? And like, what if everything else does? And I was like, oh, then I still want to be an artist. Like if it was able to be blessed enough to have like a successful exit, I would take that money and just reinvest that self into me to then just plant myself into the music space.
Perfect.
Like
Yeah.
it's been a dream of mine since I was a child, and I don't think it's going to be a dream that dies anytime soon. So yeah, 5 to 10 years. Hopefully, you see me on a Billboard Top 100. I don't know.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So you talk a lot about being the next Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
Is there this one artist that you have that's like, I guess like embodies a similar trajectory to what you hope to achieve in your life? Or is it kind of like forming your own path? Like, do you look up to anyone as like your one person that you want to be?
Um, I look up to a lot of people, but if there was somebody that I think has like the coolest trajectory in terms of being an artist and whatnot, I think it would definitely be Jay-Z. He's he's the biggest dude in the music industry. He's like what? He owns his own label. He owns his own venture fund. What does he have? That champagne venture as well. Like that is sort of like the person that I would like want to be.
Okay.
Huge, like S tier artist with his own company, with his own venture fund, with his own record label. I think that would just be the most ideal lifestyle.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So to wrap this up, are there any other things you want to tell us about yourself? Like any last minute piece of advice? Like, let's say if you had like one thing to tell people, like anyone in the audience, what would it be? Because at Build Illinois, like we're a club for people like you, like people who want to do their own thing, like be creators, be like business people, like pretty much anything. So, what would you say is like the biggest piece of advice you have, or like the biggest life story you can share with them?
Biggest piece of advice is definitely to. Actually, that's a great question. I just had something, I completely lost it. Yeah, so for all the entrepreneurs out there who are either an idea stage or they want an idea or they just maybe neither one of those and they're just like, hey, I want to start a startup, do it, but for the right reasons. I think a lot of people on people our age in general, like university age, undergraduate students, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to build a startup, right? I want to go into Y Combinator. I want to have like a huge exit and whatnot. I want to raise from these like really, really amazing funds. But like, why do you want to do that? So I think the best piece of advice for those who want to start a venture is do it, but for the right reasons. Because again, if you're just starting a venture because you think it'll make you money, you're starting a venture because you think it'll look cool on a resume, it might do exactly both of those things. But if your sort of main driver for having a startup is those things, it's very unlikely that you're going to get very far because starting your own venture is not easy. It is not glamorous a lot of the times. It's only glamorous after everybody on TechCrunch has seen it. It's only glamorous after your pitch book is like the second most searched thing ever. So do it, but do it for the right reasons. It's definitely one of my biggest pieces of advice.
Well, sounds good then. Thank you so much. It was great
Clark,
talking to
thank
you,
you
bro.
so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for